Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random. Today we are looking at another piece of dive equipment, the MINIDIVE 0.8 liter tank with the electric compressor. Now, why am I so excited for this? Well, a lot of people know who've been following my channel for a long time that I love being in the water. In fact, one of my favorite pastimes is just being in the water. I love scuba diving, I love snorkeling, I love swimming, I love even if it's just paddling around the pool. In fact, next year I've already made the determination I am gonna get myself an electric jet board from Radon. It's already gonna happen. I've already decided because I feel like that would be the best way to relieve myself from stress, which is riding that electric jet board every day after work. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited for next summer for that to happen. So what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about this, the 0.8 liter tank from MINIDIVE. Now, I have done a few videos in the past of a 1 liter Dedepu from China, a 0.5 liter Strapsco from China, and this, instead of China, this is coming from France. Honestly, just looking at this thing already, it screams higher quality than the other two products that I have reviewed in the past. I will leave a link for the Dedepu and I will leave a link for the 0.5 liter Strapsco, and you can compare them on your own. Now, these things are extremely dangerous if used improperly. I'm gonna give that as a warning, and I'm gonna leave a link right here of the re-review of these two tanks, the Strapsco and the Dedepu, where I basically go through and give you all the worst case scenarios and the things that you really have to think about when using these tanks. So please watch the re-review first while I go over all the hazards of having one of these and then come back. Now let's talk about the quality of the tank. Now, MINIDIVE offers a lot better quality, but also the price is steeply increased. Now, the one I have today is an aluminum tank, and they do offer both aluminum and they offer a carbon fiber tank. Really wanted to get the carbon fiber tank, but honestly, I would rather go with this setup because this is what most people can afford. Now, what do you have when it comes to a setup like this? Well, you have the stage 2 regulator right here. There's already air inside here, and you have the stage 1 right here on top. Now, when filling this up, this only offers 3,000 PSI, which should be enough, and around 6 cubic feet of air. So a lot of people have asked me in the past, hey, if I have a steel 80 or basic steel tank for scuba diving, and I want to fill this from that steel 80, how many times can I fill up this tank from one of those tanks? Well, if you look at it like this, 6 cubic feet of air from 80 cubic feet of air. And you can do the division and you will get just over 13 different fills. However, one of the things you also have to realize is as the tank pressure lowers in the main tank, it's not gonna be able to fill up more than what it has. So if that tank is at 2,200 PSI, you will only be able to move 2,200 PSI of air into this tank. So basically what you'll be getting is a lot of partial fills as opposed to full fills. Keep that in mind for everybody asking that question. Now, when it comes to a setup like this, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the air off. One of the things that I noticed right off the bat is the fact that you can easily separate this from the tank. Now, this goes into filling because we're gonna go inside in just a minute in the living room, and I'll show you how to fill this both from the wall and from a vehicle on the go. One of the things that I really like about this tank and this setup is the fact that it comes with this high pressure, high capacity electric compressor. Now, anybody who's looked at the Strapsco and the Dedepu in the past knows that you have to use a dang hand pump. And who wants to hand pump a tank like this for, I think it's like 1,400 pumps. We're talking 1,400 pumps, which normally took me about 35 minutes of continuous pumping or about 2 hours because nobody can actually put that much work into filling up a tank. And honestly, it just makes it not worth it. Well, this thing fills it up in about 20 minutes and you don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do, and we'll get into this in just a minute, is make sure that it doesn't overheat. There is a temperature reading on the top. Just make sure it doesn't overheat. Other than that, it's easy. It's easy to use. Very easy. Now, the tank comes with a covering that is already built in. There's no way to take it off unless you want to rip it off, but there's no reason to. And this sort of adds to the ability to carry it in the pouch that they offer. Now, this thing has pros and cons to it. I understand why they designed this the way they did. Now, the way this works is you basically take this, put it around your neck, clip it on the back, take these clips, take this down, it's around your neck, you put this in the tank, and then you close it like this. The reason why, and we'll get into this later in the video, is because if you want to bail out quickly, something's wrong, it's caught on something, your hose is caught on something, whatever the case is, you need to dump the tank, you can easily pull this down, tank falls out, and your $600 tank has disappeared forever into the ether. If you're in any type of depth. If not, then you'll just go retrieve it later. But I understand why they did it like that. I just don't like the fact that they did it like that. Understand for the safety features, but honestly, for me, I think it's unnecessary. Now, again, one of the things that I really like about this is for the larger tanks, it's very important to have an external gauge right here. And this is an oil-filled gauge, which of course it should be. Now, this says it goes up to 5,000 PSI. In no way do you ever want to put this tank past 3,000 PSI. And that to me would be the bare maximum. Honestly, for me, I would keep it around 2,500 to 2,750. And that's just for me, for safety reasons. You really don't want to overfill a tank. There are safety features on a tank that allow it not to explode, but you also want to think of longevity when it comes to your tanks. The braided tube that goes to the second regulator is extremely nice and flexible. That's one of the things about the Chinese brand that I didn't really like, is the fact that the air hose that leads up to the second stage regulator was extremely rigid, which made it, really difficult to use. It's nice that they used a braided hose that has a lot of flexibility. That is a huge thing in my eyes. Let's take this thing inside. I'll show you how it works. We'll fill up this tank and we'll take it out and we'll use it on the go. Okay, so right now I'm just on the floor in my living room because most people who are gonna use this in a wall is gonna do it just like I am right here. If you're in a hotel room or you're at home, you're basically gonna be on the floor and not necessarily at a table because you're right next to a power outlet. And honestly, for 20 minutes, you're not really gonna wanna set this up on your coffee table or on your dining room table or in your kitchen. Maybe you do. I'm just here on the floor like everybody would be. So let's do a quick rundown of how you'd fill this up. Then we're gonna take it outside into the wild, into the wilderness of Alaska, and we're gonna fill it up on the go. So basically the way they set up this inverter is just a simple wall plug right here and a simple connector right here, positive and negative, that go right here on the outside of the compressor. Now, honestly, it's the same when it comes to hooking it up to a car battery. It's just gonna be positive, negative in the same spot. So basically they made it for ease of use. So let's just go ahead and get the positive and negative set up, and I'll show you guys exactly how to fill up this tank and what to expect. So of course, red to red, and normally black to black, or in this case, blue. Okay, this is gonna plug into the wall, but before we plug it in or do anything else, we're gonna get the line ready for fill. So basically with this, what I'm gonna wanna do is make sure this is completely shut off, right? I'm gonna make sure there's no air. Air's already gone. I'm gonna take this off, and this just screws off. Now, one of the things that really we had to learn in the field is you are going to need an adjustable wrench. Now, what they give you is an adapter that looks just like this, that screws directly in here. Now, a lot of the other ones, the Smackco, the Depu, have an external nipple on the outside. That's where you sort of fill it up. This doesn't. For ease of use, they're just like, hey, where you take out the air is the same place you put in. So you're gonna wanna make sure this is relatively tight. Then what you're gonna do next is take this line. Now this line right here is also a filtration system. Now the way it works is this right here, And you're gonna wanna do this every single time you fill this up. So there is a filter right here, and inside there's like charcoal sort of beads that go in here. So you get quite a bit with your kit. Also, you get a lot of filters just like this. And basically what you're gonna wanna do is replace these every single time that you use it. It's gonna keep the air as clean as possible, which isn't nearly as clean as like a actual dive shop. Like if you're gonna fill this off of a Steel 80. However, they're doing the best they can. And honestly, I don't think it's too terrible. So what you're gonna wanna do is connect this to your tank, just like that. This gets connected down here, just like that. So basically what you're gonna do is before you fill this up, you're gonna wanna make sure this is closed. You're gonna wanna make sure this is open. So because there already is some air in here, basically the pressure you'll see on this gauge right here, it already says that it has air in it because it's from the bottle itself. So let's just plug this into the wall and I'll show you how to turn it on. Okay, and right there you can see that it does have a temperature gauge right here. This is in Celsius, and it says in the directions do not go above 84. Now this is what I would say is the most convenient about this system, is the fact that you can do it on the go in the field. Now my recommendation after you hook everything up is to not leave the actual compressor in the engine compartment. Put it off to the side so that it can actually bring in some fresh air. This is just used for demonstration purposes. What I did after I turned this thing on and actually allowed it to fill up the tank, it was sitting next to the car on a small chair that I had brought. Now, after you are done filling up your tank, what do you need to do? First, what you need to do is go ahead and close off the air here to make sure that you don't just bleed out everything that you just pumped in. You're gonna bleed out what's in the tube, what's in the compressor, and then you're gonna be able to disconnect it just like that. Now this can be disconnected. Because this is closed off, you're gonna do the opposite of what you did to begin. Okay, so we are back at Hatcher's Pass at Summit Lake, and it's a little bit rainy outside. I would love to get my DJI in the air, but we'll see if we can get some drone footage out of this. I gotta wait for the rain to sort of die down, but we're gonna get the dive stuff out of the way first. First, let's start with the chest rig. The chest rig actually fits relatively well. It's comfortable, secure, and that tank isn't going anywhere. There's a little concern in the beginning, but honestly, once it's on, it actually feels pretty secure. Now, here's where I'd recommend a pro tip for anybody who is just starting out with this. Take a snorkel with you. What you need to do is snorkel out to a location that you want to dive down to so you're not wasting air unnecessarily. A lot of times I've seen reviews of people just start using the tank right from the shore. Basically, you're killing a lot of time there. What you want to do is find where you want to dive down to and then use it once you're ready to go under the water. Now, 0.8 liters is not a lot of air, even at 3,000 PSI. What you have to understand is that when you go under the water, your breathing rate changes. You're exercising, you may be a little nervous because there's a column of water above you. So for someone like me, or someone who's been in the water for a long period of time, may have upwards of 10 minutes of air. But if you're just starting out and you are maybe breathing a little deeper than normal, you may have anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes of air, so keep that in mind. Now, while using a rig like this, my recommendation is to stay above 20 feet. Don't go below 20 feet. It adds an additional safety risk that if you're not certified, then it's just one of those things that you just don't want to go and get yourself into a bit of trouble. Now, as you come up, you really need to make sure that you keep the regulator in your mouth, continue to breathe that compressed air until you hit the surface. And even at the surface, take a minute to continue to breathe through the regulator and make sure that you're coming up slower than your bubbles. Okay, now that we're back from the lake, let's just go over some of the things that I noticed while we were shooting the video. One, the way the rig is set up is fine. It's not the best design, but I understand why they did what they did. The dedepu that I had, sits at an angle, but it's very hard to take off and put on, especially under the water. I understand why they did the system they did, because in case you need to bail out for some reason, you can just drop the tank and surface. Understand that if you are going to use this, you do need a weight belt, right? Even though this tank is pretty heavy, when it's filled with air under the water, it's gonna have some buoyancy. So if you wanna actually get under the water, you need to compensate with that buoyancy and add some weight. This may scare some people who are not used to being under the water, right? When using this, you need to have two things: confidence and competence. Now, I know that people say, well, I'm very confident in the water. Yeah, but confidence kills. That's where you need to have competence. You need to understand what you're doing while under the water. One of the things I do like about the way that it is set up right here along the chest is it's easy to look down at the gauge so you can see what your air is at, right? One of the things you don't want to do is be down at the bottom, 20, 25 feet at the bottom, looking around at something, and then suddenly you have this in your mouth and all of a sudden it sucks in and the air is gone. That is a very scary thing to have to happen. Then what's gonna happen? You're gonna panic and you're gonna rush to the surface. Well, you've been breathing compressed air. It doesn't matter if you're 5 feet or 50 feet under the water. If you are breathing compressed air, then you need to make sure as you're surfacing, one, you do it slowly, two, you're breathing out while you're under the water, while you're surfacing. The rule of thumb is do not go past your bubbles. So don't fight yourself to the top, just slowly come to the surface. That's why I recommend I wouldn't go any further than 20 or 25 feet under the water, honestly, and that is still deep for using this tank, especially if you're not competent or certified in something like PADI. Now, that being said, these are designed for non-dive certified divers, right? This is designed for someone who wants to pick it up, who wants to go off the shore and enjoy like going under the water for, a period of time that's not just 30 seconds of diving down and coming back up. So there are some safety risks when using compressed air. My recommendation is to do your research and make sure that you're being as safe as possible. Now, the quality of this thing is 100 times better than the Chinese ones I've done in the past. 100 times better. Honestly, the system itself set up is, it's self-contained, right? You don't need anything else, especially with the high capacity air compressor that attaches to your battery. I've never had something that's been so convenient on the go, other than renting a Steel 80, like a full-size scuba tank, and then filling directly off of that. That is the best way to go, because that is a $30,000 air compressor with a filtration system. You'll never get anything cleaner than that. That being said, they did a pretty good job at the air compressor that they sent me. Now, in no way are those cheap. They're relatively expensive, but it really does beat not having to pump 1,400 pumps at the end of the day. And the air from that compressor is far cleaner than the hand pump. So keep that in mind too. It's about longevity, both in your life and in the sport. This thing is gonna last you a very long time if you take care of it. They send plenty of O-rings and plenty of filters, so it's gonna last you for a long time. Just take care of it. If you're gonna spend the money on a rig like this, just take care of it. Anytime you're in and out of the water, rinse it off with fresh water at home, especially if you get in the ocean and you're dealing with salt water. Make sure you rinse off all your gear every single time. Now, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment of the content you guys would like to see on this channel. This video is a little long, but I really wanted to give you guys an in-depth review of this tank. It is so much better than the ones I have reviewed in the past. I am lucky that I was able to get my hands on it, and I have so much stuff coming up in the future. I have a pile of stuff on my desk to review, and I have 4 watches coming in. If you guys are interested in watch reviews, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.